Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, March 28th, the 87th day of the year. There are 278 days left in 2023, and welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom. Well, it happened again yesterday. Another mass shooting. 6 people were killed by a former student at a private Christian school where she had one time been a student. Parents were understandably upset and vowing that things have to change. Will they change? I doubt it. The will isn't there among those who have the power to make the change. They don't want to. However, there were plenty of harsh words for him. One mother said Congress was putting targets on the children's backs. The news media made a big point of making sure everyone knew that the shooter was trans. What difference did that make? Was it a distraction? I reflected back on being little and leaving home for school back in the day. We walked close to a mile to the bus stop. No, it wasn't in the snow. But we walked to the bus stop. My parents never lived with the fear that we would not return home that evening. Yesterday, I thought, what would my parents have done? How would they have reacted under that kind of circumstance? I don't know. I guess we'll continue to live with it. I guess we don't have a choice because nothing's going to change if Congress has to do it. I watched a lot of women's basketball this past weekend, in particular the women's Sweet 16. The players worked and played extremely hard. They played hard, man. I enjoyed it. It was fun. The Final Four is set: South Carolina versus Iowa, Virginia Tech versus LSU. But no matter how good the other three are, it's South Carolina that pretty much sets the bar. It has to be quite a challenge for a coach who aspires to win the championship, knowing he or she has to go through South Carolina. Coach Dawn Staley and the South Carolina team is a lot to tackle to win. Back-to-back titles is never easy, but it is easier in women's basketball when you are as driven and work as hard as Dawn Staley does. Over the years, the dominance that South Carolina exhibits has been shown by other women's teams and other women's coaches, which is one reason why I say it's a little bit easier. Gino Aramino won championships at Connecticut in 2003, 2004, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2009, 2010, 2013 through 2016. Tennessee won it all in 96, 97, 98, and 2007 and 2008. Coach Staley has instilled that thirst for championships in her highly recruited players from the season's beginning. She individually explains to each what is expected of them, regardless of how many minutes they play or whether or not they play at all. She explains to her best player, a highly recruited star, that it wasn't enough for the young woman to be the best player on her team. She wanted the young lady to dominate. She expected dominance. Will they raise the trophy again this year? Well, we'll see. But I wouldn't bet against them. If they continue this trend, at some point, Coach Staley and the Lady Gamecocks will be recognized with one of those Sports Center, the best of all times label that they like to bestow on teams when they win multiple championships. Okay, our G-List guest today is Tonya Hill Allen. Ms. Allen is a master certified life coach, trainer, and CEO trainer in Falala Life, where she uses her coaching and consulting expertise to help clients create the life, career, or business they love. She is the author of Diane's Heart, Transforming Loss to Purpose and Legacy. We look forward to that conversation. Okay, this edition of Tuesdays with Thom is sponsored by our partners, the Best Girl Consulting Firm. Best Girl has been providing customized solutions to executive issues for more than 34 years. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girls customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Creates the solution that fits your needs. So we'll get to our roundtable regulars and introduce Barbara Wallace Edwards and Michael Walker. Good morning, Barbara Wallace Edwards and Michael Walker. How you guys doing?
Good morning, TG.
I'm
Doing well.
good.
Hope
Doing
you are
well,
too.
thank you.
I don't know if you guys can hear it. You probably can't. But the little dog, he's one of these little dogs next door, is blind and he can't hear. So he's pretty old. But he's standing out there barking. And if you go and look at him, he goes around in a circle because he can't tell what direction he's going in.
This is hard.
And so I guess I shouldn't laugh, but it is kind of funny.
It is kind of funny. Bless his heart. They let him outside. He can't hear or see.
They let him out for a little bit, but if
Okay.
they let him out, a couple times he's wandered over here, and I go out there, and I didn't know he was blind at first, and he's just going around in a circle, man, barking. It's going around in a circle barking. It's like, ooh, okay.
Poor thing.
So yeah.
No, well, we don't hear him, so
Okay. He just he stopped. I guess he knew we were on. So Barbara, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing well, Tom. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Did you watch any of the women's basketball this past weekend?
I did watch a little bit of it. I didn't sit there and watch the whole game. I want to say congratulations right now to South Carolina and Coach Don Staley. I think they're going to win it all. I did watch some of the game and some of two of the games at least, and I think they're just dominating everyone.
So my question is, when you saw you were a guest coach for the Auburn team, and you went back to a couple of other games.
Yes, I did.
Your comparison. What needs to happen?
Well, I think Coach J is going to do well at Auburn. She's, this is what, her third year, and she came very late in her first year at Auburn, so she hasn't had a chance to really recruit. I think she's going to do very well, but yeah, there's no comparison right now. South Carolina is head over heels over everybody, not just Auburn, but all the other teams everywhere, I think.
So apparently she brought these 5 young women in one class.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don is, she's a super recruiter and coach, and, she's well known. Of course, she was a phenomenal basketball player herself. So I don't think it takes much for her to recruit the best players out there.
I think we have to recognize Antley.
Most definitely.
South Carolina is his team.
Yes, congratulations, Antley.
He says he's from Columbia, South Carolina.
Right.
All right, Antley, you're the guy. So, Michael, how are you this morning, man?
I'm doing well, man.
Good. So, what do you think about the Lamar Jackson situation? The news that he asked him for a trade way back on March the 2nd.
Well, first of all, I'm not surprised that it's taken this turn. And what I mean by that, I kind of doubted from the beginning that he was going to be able to get something done just because of the way the system is. When I first heard that he was going to handle his own negotiation, he and his mother, I felt like that was going to be an issue right there, just because of the way the system is set up. It's set up to have an agent involved. And I understand the reasons for having an agent involved. And if he were to be successful in negotiating his own contract, that would certainly set up a domino effect throughout. And agents would no longer be a part of it. And then also, in negotiations, things get personal and they use the agent for a buffer. And the other part of it is that I don't think they really respect him or his mother and their ability to negotiate a contract. So you got a lot of different dynamics going in there. So I just felt from the beginning that would be an issue, and somebody said to me, well, he had his first contract. I said, yeah, that was a rookie contract.
Right.
I say, so that was already set in stone. I say, now it's time to get paid the big money. And that's where the hard negotiations come into. And I just find that it's a lot more difficult for a player like him to try to negotiate that, he and his mother.
He wants a fully guaranteed contract, I understand, which is very, very rare
Right.
in the NFL.
Yeah.
What's his name? The guy who went to Cleveland, Deshaun Watson. Is his contract fully guaranteed?
Yes, and that's what started all this stuff. And a lot of the owners are holding tight that they're not going to do it anymore because they felt like the Cleveland Browns kind of went rogue. All those owners like to try to stick together. It's not supposed to be any collusion, but it is collusion. So,
we'll have to get that on Sports Center. Okay. Go ahead, Mike.
But, that's what they're doing right now is because they're saying that the Cleveland Brown owner, he stepped out there and he set a precedent for this and that it never should have happened that way. And so now they're holding tight that they're just not going to do this anymore. So there you go with your collusion and collective bargaining agreement and all of that stuff come into play. But you know how it is in America. They tell you one thing, but it's really the other. So whatever they tell you, it's the opposite.
Well, I just, he seems like a good young man, and I was hoping that he would, and I don't know, for me, 130 million versus 150 million, I could live with either one of them.
I'll take either one.
So you wouldn't have to be a financial guru trying to make that work, huh?
I figure I could work that out. I'd have enough to go to the Publix and back. That's for sure. William Wallace says they are trying not to let him and his mother change the algorithm of the league. It's him versus the NFL, not the Ravens. If one person can get that kind of money with a non-certified agent, then it will cause a landslide, changing everything.
Wally's right.
Yeah, pretty much agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it for him, and the people. I hate it for the people of Baltimore. They love this guy.
They do,
and they love the Ravens.
Yes.
And the coach. I don't know if you saw the coach yesterday in the statement he made. It was all positive. He loves Lamar. We're building the whole offense around Lamar. We want Lamar back, so on and so forth.
Right.
And I don't know. I think, Lamar's a young guy, and the longer it goes, the more he probably starts to take it personal, which it is.
Right.
And I think that lessens their chances of eventually getting him. So we'll see.
Yes.
Barbara, what else you got this morning?
Well, Tom, every week during Women's History Month, I try to highlight an outstanding woman from our past. And today is Tuesday, the last Tuesday in the month of March. So I wanted to do another highlight of an outstanding woman. American aviator Janet Harmon Bragg was born in Griffin, Georgia. In 1928, she became the first Black woman to enroll in the Curtis Wright School of Aeronautics in Chicago. And 5 years later, she enrolled in Curtis Wright Aeronautical University. In 1942, she became the first African-American woman to hold a commercial pilot license. She is a 2022 inductee into the Georgia Aviation Hall of Fame. So, tribute to Ms. Bragg.
Okay. Michael?
Well, Tom, I wanted to speak and maybe provide some news that our audience could use. Nearly 2/3 of the patients have never challenged a medical bill. And as you probably have heard, that's one of the main causes of bankruptcy with people is getting outrageous medical bills, being unable to pay them, and it goes on your credit report, and it ends up driving people into bankruptcy. But the people that have challenged them, most of them find that the bill is reduced or either it is removed. Mm-hmm. You just have to know that you need to challenge them and be able to hang in there. Some people say it'll take 30 days. Some people say as much as 6 months. But if you go in there and challenge them, you can find that you will have the opportunity to reduce the bill. When people charge you $100 for an aspirin, you know there's a problem there. Okay. And what they have found is people that have a high deductible health plan of Medicare Advantage were the ones that was most likely to challenge the bill. But 64% of consumers were unaware that their physicians or hospital offered financial aid programs to help them manage their medical bills. So there are ways that you can manage that process, but you just have to have the stick-to-itness to go in there and challenge them when you have an issue with the bill. And they're trying to gain control of that, because I was involved in helping getting surprise bill challenge here in Georgia, and we're able to get that approved, where people are just getting these extraordinary bills. They call them surprise billing and what have you. But you got to know that you can do that. And unfortunately, we've been conditioned to think that if you get a bill from the doctor, it's automatically right. And that's not true.
Michael, most elderly people don't question any bills. They just, their mindset is, I got a bill, I need to pay it. And so, yeah, I would say 90% of elderly individuals don't ever challenge those bills, not just medical bills, but any bill.
Well, you're right. And there's a trend there, not only elderly, but people that happen to be from a lower social economic background, people that are on Medicaid, and poor people. They're the ones that's really caught up into this, because they have so many things going on that they don't have the wherewithal or the resources to challenge it. But those are the people that really need to do that.
Right.
That's amazing.
It is.
I think one of my surgeries, it was ridiculous. I mean, it was ridiculous. But when they negotiate it down, then it's ridiculous, because it's like, okay, you start here,
yes,
and you end up here.
Right.
Shit, you could have ended up here in the first place. That means the first charge wasn't legitimate.
Exactly.
Right.
Right. What they charge and what the insurance companies approve are there's a drastic difference there. And so you're right. They settle for that amount. And if they can do it, then why don't they start at that amount? But again, those people that don't have insurance, they stick it to them. Those are the ones that get charged those high prices. And if they don't challenge it, the bill just stays out there forever, and they just have to pay it.
And why do they do it? Just because they can.
Because they can.
Yeah. And Antley asked me, can I get that bill passed in South Carolina? Well, Antley, unfortunately, I'm not domiciled there in South Carolina, and all the legislative work I do is here in Georgia, or either on the federal level. So we may have to find somebody that's a counterpart to myself that could do that in South Carolina.
Yeah, it'd be good.
It needs to be done on a national level, Michael, is actually what happens on a federal level, so that it impacts all states.
Yeah. Well, they do have a federal legislative bill out there to end surprise billing.
Right.
But you know how that does. It takes a while to filter down to the state.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Antley says he'll get you a house in South Carolina.
Big money, Antley.
If you want to move, he's got you.
Thank you, Antley.
You can work in 2 states.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else from either one of you guys?
Well, the only other thing I want to mention, we talked about the shooting yesterday and what have you. And, I just read before we came on the show where Audrey is the name of the person. She sent a note to one of her middle school teammates.
Evidently, the name of the person who did the shooting?
Yes.
Okay.
She sent a note saying, I'm going to die today. You will hear about it on the news after I'm gone. And so they're finding more and more things out about this. So obviously this person had some issues going on. And, you wonder what is going on nowadays because of this. Is it COVID? Is it just stress? What is it? Because you find more and more acts. There's a young man that was 19 years old down here in Brunswick. He was hanging out with some friends, and one of these guys that just wanted to be with some friends and buddies and stuff, they took him to a party down at St. Simon Island. This is where the real ultra rich have homes down there. And they taped him to a chair, forced alcohol and drugs into him, and then spray painted him and did all kinds of things to mock him and what have you, and then filmed it and held up the middle finger while they were filming it. Wow. And this kid is just, completely slumped over in the chair.
These are his friends?
Well, he thought they were his friends.
Yeah.
Wow, I was going to say, surely not.
And some other kids took him to the hospital and signed it in and left him there. He's been on a ventilator.
Mm. Are the other kids under any kind of arrest? Or?
Not yet, but people are pushing. The article said 100 people showed up at his hospital and with a vigil, and they're pushing. Ironically, this is the same county where Ahmaud Arbery was killed a couple years ago. And so they say Glenn County is just corrupt. And if you're in that county, if you have money, it makes a lot of stuff go away.
Wow.
What was the age of the young man who?
19.
And what were the age of his buddies? They were
buddies. It didn't say, but I would think they're somewhere around the same age.
Probably didn't even list their names, did it, Michael?
No, it did not. It did not. But one thing I picked up in an article I thought was interesting was the fact that a person said a lot of people thought that he was on the spectrum, but he's really not on the spectrum. So he may just be a little bit, what people would say, a little bit weird, a little bit off. So I guess they use that as a motivating factor to mistreat this young man.
Well, I'm OG. So tell me what a spectrum is.
The autistic.
Yeah.
On the autistic spectrum.
Okay. Yeah. That's a shame.
That is a shame.
Okay. Anything else from either one of you guys? Okay. Well, let's go to Sean. I think Sean's got a minute for us.
Good morning. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is God a Minute. It's the second week of spring, which is often used to represent birth, revival, and the start of better times. There is stronger sunlight, temperatures are beginning to rise, and the days have grown longer. The weather is changing a lot. It can be sunny and dry one minute and wet and showery the next. Scientists believe that during this time, everyone catches spring fever because of the longer days, which causes us to be more active, creative, and happy. I'm not too sure about all of that because all spring means to me is seasonal allergies. The flowers are blooming, pollen. The grass is growing faster, pollen. South Florida and trees all means pollen to me. Either way, I hope it brings us all nothing but success. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is God a Minute.
You can tell who runs this show because Sean's segment is always louder than everybody else. Okay.
Always.
All right. Well, let's get to the G list. Hollywood has the A list, and here on Tuesdays with Thom, we have the G list. And our G list guest today is Tonya Hill Allen. Miss Allen is a master certified life coach, trainer, and CEO of Falala Life, where she uses her coaching and consulting expertise to help clients create the life, the career, and the business that they love. She's the author of Diane's Heart, Transforming Loss to Purpose and Legacy. Good morning, Miss Allen.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, we're doing fine. How are you doing?
I'm excellent. Thank you for having me.
Good, good. Thank you for being with us. So I want to just ask you, first of all, before we go, tell us about Diane's heart and how that came about.
So, Diane's heart is about my heart, who is Diane, my mother, my beloved mother. She passed away in 2010. And I knew the moment she left this earth, I needed to do something to memorialize her. She had been so good to so many people. I just didn't know how. And when I prayed through my grief and through my healing process, I would have these vivid dreams that I was working with children and with women. And that had already been my platform, but I would see visions of her as well. And long story short, I realized after journaling, I need to start a foundation. That was the word I heard in my spirit. And over time, I realized it was a nonprofit. And if you know me, nonprofit was not on the list for me. So it was something completely external from me, myself saying, this is the path that you need to take. So I retired myself from my HR job about 4 years ago. And I really poured myself into Diane's heart. My mother was a single mom. I think she did a good job. And so I learned through my healing process that she paid tuition and power bills and rent for people. She paid for books and she even bailed somebody out of jail. Just a lot of things that she did to help people. And the more I connected the dots, it was either single moms telling me their stories or their children telling me their stories, or I was recognizing the pattern that it's about the single mom community. So she helped people who were similarly situated to herself when she could. And so that is what I wanted to do, in her memory. And every time I get to bless a mom and a child in what we do, I feel like I am blessing my mom. I'm actually doing something for her beyond the grave. So it is very fulfilling. It is my life's calling and my passion work.
And Wardine Alexander says that you were in Leadership Birmingham with her.
Yes. Hey, Wardine. Love her.
Hey, Wardine. We're all saying hello to you this morning.
Hey, Wardine.
So tell me, I was in Leadership Birmingham. God, it was in 1986. So tell me about your experience.
I am loving Leadership Birmingham, getting to meet so many wonderful people, people that I've admired from afar, but to get together and to actually connect and find that we have so much more in common than we think, across lines. And we all, at a deep level, for the most part, want the same thing. We just need to figure out, how do we do it for everybody? Because we're as strong as we are connected together, and we're as weak as we can be when we are disparate and separated apart.
I'm just curious, and I'll get to my cousin Barbara in a second, but every subject that we came up with in Leadership Birmingham always ended up in the race space. And, we had a couple of, we had people cry. We had a couple of people storm out of the room. It was incredible. But I think it made a heck of an impression on it did on me. And I've always been grateful that I had that experience. But I'm just wondering, I'd love to sit in on a session and just see how it's changed, if in fact it has.
I don't think it's changed based on what you just said and based on what I'm walking in now. It's about the same.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's see who's got Barbara, Michael. Which one of you guys got a question for?
Always defer to Barbara. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, sir. Good morning, Tonya, and thank you for joining us today. We go way back, and I know all about your work with Diane's Heart, and I'm so impressed with what you're doing and the impact you're having on the community here in Birmingham. Is there any plans to maybe expand that beyond the city of Birmingham at some point in the future?
So I have gotten 3 people in 3 different cities to ask to start a chapter. And everything is growing so quickly. We are really now stepping out of startup into growth, and it is a big lift. So I really want to get the programs really set here and really be able to show not just our outputs, but our outcomes. And there's some that we can't even measure. They're just way beyond, just the trajectory of people's lives when you are actually able to impact and change lives. You can't really measure it all.
Right.
But before I roll something out in different cities and chapters, I kind of want to, for lack of a better word, perfect the methodologies, our distribution process, the operations of it. And I don't think we're quite there yet, but we do have quite a demand. We have a wait list here in Birmingham. We have people, because we're virtual in a lot of our settings, people from outside of the state to apply, people from outside of the city to apply. So you hit the nail on the head about expansion. I mean, it's chomping right there at the bit, but we still have some growth, internal growth, and structural types of things that we need to stand up before we can expand.
Okay, very good.
Great.
Thank you.
Michael?
Well, good morning, Diane. I want to call you Diane because it's so powerful. I know that it's your mom and you're Tonya, so excuse me for that. But
I did the same thing.
And people do that all the time.
you look kind of like a Diane for some reason.
I look like my mom.
Okay, all right then. Well, then that was a compliment. You have such, and how might I put it? It's an admirable mission, but it's such, as you put it, heavy lift because it's such a wide need. And as I was reading some of the things that you talk about doing is improving the physical, mental, socioeconomic state of moms through life skills, mentoring, and coaching. How do you do all that? What steps do you take to do that? Because when you're talking about the people that are in need of this, sometimes they have no idea how to get started.
Absolutely. So I am a mindset transformation coach. And so I started my personal business, Falala Life, right after I left my corporate job, just to learn business. I wasn't really serious about it, but it took off because people, I don't care if you're an executive, if you are in business, if you're in a corporate career, if you're in school preparing to graduate, whatever it is, mindset is so key. And a lot of times we don't recognize what we're thinking. We're just thinking, and we don't recognize that whether it's positive for us, if it's going to help us. So what I did was I designed a program in my private business with what I call a framework. And I recognized immediately this should be in the nonprofit. So I was charging in my personal business. I redesigned it and put it in the nonprofit free. And that's why we're able to see the results that we see, because it is mindset focused. So boundaries. We teach boundaries when the moms first come in because we have boundaries that we've set for Diane's Heart in our program. And when people operate within their boundaries and they stand firm in those, you tend to say yes to what you want and not what everybody else wants around you. And so that's one of the tenets that we focus on initially. Financial management. What I found is that our moms are very savvy with money. They can make a dollar go a long way. So I don't like to say, their financial literacy or question that. A lot of times it takes you really identifying where your money is going. So the first assignment is tracking your spending. We don't want to see your budget. You just need to know where your money is going. There's so much more flowing into your hands that you're letting flow right out for no other reason than you just don't know where it's going. Mm-hmm. So DoorDash is an evil word around us.
Yes.
all the conveniences that you would expect that a single mother would need are the things that sometimes are taking away that extra money, that cushion that you could have. So financial management and really understanding what you have in your hand. That's your money, that's your talent, that's your brand, that's the circle that's around you. So it's an awareness that we try to create to shift just slightly to push you into what we call purposeful and intentional action. So when it's inspired, you will reach. If you're not inspired, you'll get the information and sit on it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so personal to you that it makes you think, I could do this. And that's our whole purpose. Our whole draw is to get you to reach. Because once you reach and you hit that goal, you'll reach again for the next thing. That's our premise.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, I used to say my mom could get 50 cents out of a quarter.
Yes.
Our
mothers had to.
Had to.
Exactly.
You know, when you talk about, now I'm going to use the word ignorance because ignorance isn't bad. Ignorance means you don't know, and you have to learn. When Joyce, my wife, was running for the city council, we went in parts of neighborhoods that people who ran for public office had never been. Nobody had ever went to visit those people and talk to them. And in doing that, we found out that about the ignorance level. And this woman, she said, I said, well, do you know who you vote for? She said, well, what I do is get in my car and ride around, and whoever's got the most signs, that's who I vote for.
Wow.
It's like, that was a new one. I'd never heard that. Whoever's got the most signs.
Never heard that one before.
Go vote for. It's like, no, we don't want you to do that. Because my wife didn't have any signs. We didn't put any signs up because people never take them down. And so it was just and that's been what, maybe 8 million years ago. I never forgot that. It always stayed with me. Whoever has the most signs, that's who I go and vote for.
Wow.
But I tell you what, I talk about ignorance, but you can learn. And I gave all them my phone number. And I said, on the morning of when the polls open, if you don't have a ride, you call me, I'll come pick you up and I'll take you to vote. And man, that phone was ringing off the hook. They wanted to go vote. You know, they wanted to. They just nobody had ever educated them as to the how to and what to do when you go in there to vote. So anyway, I'm sorry about that. Barbara, Michael.
I do. I want to ask you about Falala Life. I love the name, but I just wonder, how did you come up with that? Because that is just, it makes you want to just have this happy thoughts.
It's in the song.
It is.
Yes,
it is. So I love Christmas, and that is like my jam. But that also for me, Falala is a mindset. And so in my corporate job to cope, if you think about Christmas, people are happy, they're nice to you, they're out shopping and decorating, and you eat a whole lot. It's like the happiest time of the year for a lot of people. And so I would just go into Falala mode, and it became a verb. Like if people were being crazy around me, I had a co-manager who would say, oh, she's Falala, y'all, honey, because I've just shifted my mindset. I am not going to let you drain me. And so that's where that comes from, because my work is about mindset transformation. And I want people to walk in a Falala life every day. You can choose joy every day. You can shift your perspective, and you can shift the energy in a room just by showing up and standing in your truth. And that's what I bring. And I want to share that with people so that they can also operate in Falala.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah. Mhm.
Michael?
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Tonya, I kind of want to go back to what we were talking about earlier about these life skills and the coaching. And I have two comments, and then I'd like to ask your input. Do you recall back in the day where they used to have shop in high school and home economics,
Mhm.
those
Yes.
programs? And then
Yes.
all of a sudden they went away, you know, and I have the feeling that they were very important part of the curriculum, and it helped prepare people for life after high school, whether or not you went on to college, you know. And I remember when my daughter was being recruited to Auburn to play basketball, and I went on a trip with her, they had a person to tell her, you will be assigned a life coach, whether you want one or not, that's going to sit down and talk to you about balancing your checkbook, how you spend your money, and all of that. And that thought reoccurred to me that we don't teach that in our schools anymore. Do you feel like that has a lot to do with you now having to go and do these things because no one teaches our younger people how to do that anymore?
I do think partly, but there's something that I think is so more progressive in our community because we serve majority African American female. We have had some Hispanic participants to come to some of our events, but what I see is a excuse me, a generational cycle, and it's because you've never seen it. It's all you've seen in your family and the people closest to you. So there's not been exposure to doing things any differently. Now, I do think that could also stem from the school system that is in your neighborhood, if your family is coming up through that school system. But not only home ec and those types of things, sometimes we don't have art programs in schools. The first thing to get cut might be music and those creative things that really are outlets for people who do things differently. Our children need all of that. We need the academics and the learning and the teaching pieces of it, but we need arts, we need dance. My mother believed in me being what she would call not just a brainiac, but you've got to be able to balance that social side of life. And I applaud the people at your daughter's school for giving her a life coach. I had the opportunity to speak on Thursday, and we had 3 young ladies who were on spring break actually attending this particular session. And it just blessed my heart that they could hear this information at 14 and 15, where there were women in the room who had not heard the information at 40 and 50. So I do have a back page list of 11 things I want to get to. And serving the younger population, the teens and tweens, has my heart because it is a definite, if we can get to them with some information and expose them to different things or something that they have not seen or heard, it reduces the opportunity for them to have to waste time trying to figure things out when you can give them the help they need at an earlier stage in life.
There's a saying that I heard not too long ago, in the last couple of years or so, but it said that a man can never be what he's never seen. And it was about men growing up, taking care of their families and so on and so forth. But if you've never seen that, if you've never witnessed that, it's pretty hard for you to be that. And I think that's somewhat similar to what you're saying. A man can never be what he's never seen. That stuck with me. And,
Yes.
And I think about my dad, and my dad taught me how to be a good man. And he and I had a talk not too long before he died. And he said, "I'm sorry I wasn't able to give you a lot of things like the other boys had." And I said, "No, man, you taught me how to be a good man. That was the most important thing you could have given me."
Right.
So I agree. I mean, if you've never seen it, it's hard to be it. It really is.
And we have a lot of people, not just single moms, but a lot of people in this world who are living with trauma that has not been healed. And so you operate and you function through the lens of the trauma. And access to counseling, we provide counseling in our work as well. But sometimes people just don't know that I'm responding in trauma. They think that's just how I am.
Right.
And so we teach that as well, really identifying what's showing up, because that's your brand, that's your personal brand. You take it wherever you go. And when you're known by that, opportunities may not come your way for no other reason than your brand. So it's introducing those concepts that sometimes people have never been taught.
Michael, Barbara.
Tonya, you talked about Diane's heart and what are you doing? And I know, like you said, there's a waiting list of women out there who are dying to get assistance and want to learn more. How can others help? If there's others out in the community who want to donate or volunteer their services, how can they get in contact with you and help the organization grow and help others?
Absolutely. So we are growing. So this year we'll have a second cohort. We have one that we just wrapped up the coaching phase. It was started in January, but the new cohort starts in June. So we need mentors. We need volunteers to support us. We have an application or registration process that we have for mentors or any volunteers at our website. We also, of course, would love donations. That's how we thrive and make things happen.
Right.
So donations are more than welcome. But sometimes it's those very small things like sharing our post so that our reach is expanded and people who need it can see that we are offering those services. So I don't want people to say, oh, they have a wait list, but get on the wait list, because we also offer our flagship program is called She Knew There Was More. That was born out of a focus groups we had where moms kept saying, I know there has to be more to life than to struggle, work so hard, and then die. And absolutely, there's more to life. So that's where She Knew There Was More came in. So we have opportunities in that program for people to volunteer and help us. But sharing our post, liking our post, referring people to our website, which is www.dienesheart.org. And we're on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And then we also offer, we have holiday giveaway. It's called Operation Secure the Bag. It is financial education, but we also bless the moms with brand new handbags, and we stuff them with gift cards and gas cards and makeup and journals. So when we put that out there, we really love that the community rises up to support that. It has been also probably one of our largest marketing efforts to draw moms in, because once they see, oh, this is great,
Right.
I want to stay connected to your organization. So when we put that up, if you can support that, that would be great for us. And then we have a fund that we call Adopt a Mom Fund. So when they come through our coaching and mentoring program, they are required to establish a goal, and they have to set milestones to reach the goals. And so we do a wraparound service that helps them to reach the goal. And so donations go there to help them meet the goal. So it may be to buy a house. They have to set milestones on how they research what that process is. And they may get $1,500 towards their down payment on their house. We've had moms to want to go back to school, and they've gone back to school. I think right now we have 6 or 7 who have gone back to school or to complete a certification. So Adopt a Mom Fund donations really help us to help our moms. And then we do Bright Future for the children. And that's a giveaway as well. We believe that, family games like Connect Four and Checkers. I know we're all in this technology age and everybody's thumbs but just to have conversations around checkerboard. I may be a little nostalgic, but I think that's where conversations happen and around the dinner table and in the car when you're driving. So we give away gifts to inspire and invoke those types of interactions in families. So any of that, yes.
A game like checkers is non-generational.
Right.
I'm not going to sit there and do this.
Right.
I'll play you some checkers. And it doesn't matter how old you are or how old I am,
Right.
Or some bid whist or something like that.
There you go.
And I'll talk a lot of smack and, Hey, Barbara,
Yes.
we have a couple of people over here on here who are interested in making donations. Will you make
Yes.
sure that they connect?
Absolutely.
I almost called you Diane again. Will you
With
make sure they
Tonya.
connect with Tonya?
Yes. And several people have posted the website for Diane's Heart in the chat, in the comment
thank
section
you.
as well. So, but we will have that information also for those that need it.
Thank you so much.
Maybe you'll change your name.
She just answers to both. That's how you do that.
I do. I get
Answer to both.
emails. Literally,
Right.
I've emailed them and it says from Tonya, and they'll respond back,
Diane.
Diane. Thank you.
Barbara, Michael, you got anything else?
Yes, Tonya. And you notice how I emphasize that.
Yes.
I'd like for you to step out of that role with this next question and give me your input. And Thom took me back to this when he talked about his relationship with his father. With all the single moms that you're helping, in order for them to be single moms, there had to be a man in their life at some point. Is there any conversation around the men that were involved with them becoming a mom? And the reason why I say that is, going back to Thom, a man can never be what he hasn't seen. I was fortunate to be raised by my grandfather that taught me the meaning of being a man and how to become a man, and uncles. But if we have these women here that are in this situation, and based on your statistics, it's saying they were single moms. So normally kids fare better if there are two parents there. Usually the economic income is better. What conversation do you have around the women in regard to the men that, for lack of a better term, got them in that situation? And when I say that, they were there from conception, that's all.
Right. So it's 9 modules, and in each of the module, we are constructing the thought of being your powerful self, making solid decisions. And it is based on a lot of different things. The module where we talk about relationships, the core of that is either talking about if you are a widower, because we have moms in that situation, and doing it by yourself. What's that expectation of you being the CEO of your home? And they all are. But we have a large majority, well, I won't say majority. When we looked at the data, we were shocked because most of the moms in 1 or 2 of our cohorts were divorced. It was a result of divorce. So a lot of that is about making choices, and who you will partner with. And then, of course, we have moms who have never been married to have children as well. And so we talk from the angle of co-parenting. So it is a focus on decisions and choices lead us to our circumstances, period. Every choice and decision I've made today has led me here on this call. It's led up to this. And so it's no different in their situations as well. Our focus is being whole. And when you are whole, you are able to make better decisions. I don't care what area it is in your life. And so we don't necessarily focus in on what's going on in your personal matters as it relates to a relationship. We're talking about all relationships and how you think and view yourself as worthy to have the best life that you can have. And so you get to decide what that is for you, but it has to be from a belief within you that you are good enough, smart enough, whatever that thing is that would prevent you from making a poor choice or decision that's going to impact you long term. So that's kind of how we approach it, because we all get to make choices we have to live with.
I think we also learn as we go that you teach people how to treat you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You don't allow people to just treat you how they want to treat you. You teach people how you want to be treated.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I agree with all of that. And I guess part of it is, I got divorced when my kids were young, but I also made the decision I may divorce their mother, but I'm not divorcing my children.
Right.
Beautiful.
And I think that regardless of all the other negative energy, men need to realize the child is a victim of circumstance and they didn't ask to be there. So
Right.
because you and their mother do not get along, you don't divorce them. And it's kind of funny. Charles Barkley was on 60 Minutes and he said what propelled him in basketball is the fact he was mad at his father because his father walked out and left them, and he played with anger because of that, and he's finally gotten over that, after several other things. And he realized that was an issue. And, sometimes things just don't work out. But
Right.
the main thing I think that we all have to do and remember as adults, the children didn't ask to be there. They're our responsibility.
Absolutely.
I think the biggest thing out of today is I can't call you Diane, Tonya. You're making a difference and making a difference in people's lives, and that's important. We're happy to be able to have you on to talk about it, and hopefully it'll influence some people to continue to doing some good things. So,
well, thank you so much.
Go ahead.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to use your platform to spread the word about the work that we do. I appreciate it.
Well, we're proud, and because you've been on one time, you got some wonderful things going on. You want to talk about them? Give us a shout, and we'll have you on again.
Super. Thank you.
We try and do that from time to time. So, Barbara, Michael, you got anything else?
Just thank you so much for joining us today, Tonya, and thank you to all of our viewers today. We had a lot of new viewers on, and we want to thank them and welcome them to come back and join us at any time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Tonya, I enjoyed the stimulating conversation. You're doing great things, and not only that, but they're important things for our society. So I admire you for what you're doing, and I wish you the best.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, let's. Okay, my closing commentary, or for today, or as I see it, is the Final Four is set. The Final Four women's bracket is set, which is what I'm talking about. And I'm willing to bet you that whatever teams you chose, they're not in the Final Four bracket, except unless it's South Carolina. I think that's what makes it so much fun. I stopped following the brackets a long time ago, but as they unfold, it's fun to see whose predictions have any chance of coming to fruition. So we'll look forward to it. Should be a lot of fun. And I want to thank Tonya. I almost called her Diane again, but we want to thank you for being on with us. It was wonderful, and we appreciate you. And that is how I see it on this March 28th in the year 2023. That's our show for today. We want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. We want to thank Tonya Hill Allen. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl Inc. Thank Barbara, Sean, and Joyce. And that's it for this Tuesday on March 28th in the year 2023. Remember, enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.